Hi, Andy. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, James. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, yeah, likewise, likewise. Excited for this conversation because there's quite a bit to unpack when it comes to like your experience or your journey and everything leading up to Impetus, and then all the growth stuff we can share. But you founded Impetus Global to transform team dynamics with technology. Can you share what first sparked your interest in performance optimization?
Yeah, sure. So it's a great starting question. I think just to roll back a little bit, I had experience in corporate world, running big teams, trying to optimize teams inside other businesses. When I left corporate, I started up just in consultancy, very much focused on helping entrepreneurs and young business people to drive performance in their businesses. Um, within that kind of process, I used lots of different tools and technologies, and really got excited and interested in how motivation impacted performance, and really couldn't find a tool which measured and analysed motivation in a corporate way. There's a few things out there that have looked at sports and have looked at academia, but I couldn't find anything that gave real commercial insights. So that really led to the foundation of Impetus Global. It came alongside a mentorship program which was running in hospitality. They needed a tool to measure progress over time of their mentorship program. So, in collaboration with that business, we built the technology. Impetus Global was born from that, and now we have iDrive, which is our proprietary technology, and a couple of other tools which we use to really leverage technology and AI and the non-human element to drive human performance. So when I was doing my consulting, it was very much dealing one-on-one with founders and CEOs and C-suite people looking to drive performance. The technological aspect allows us to reach more people more quickly and reach people who are further down organizations who wouldn't otherwise have been able to benefit from some of the kind of the outputs that we get from using iDrive and understanding our own motivations and understanding how behavior and communication affects our performance. So it really was it all kind of came together as a perfect storm. A lot of these things do. I didn't sit there dreaming about building a motivational tool. It kind of an opportunity presented itself to really that fits into my value set, which is kind of a real big vision and value for me is to make as much positive change as I possibly can, and to be able to do that for getting people into the performance development, mindset development early in their careers that wouldn't otherwise have had that. It was a really exciting opportunity for us, and I teamed up with my business partner Rachel House, and we built Impetus. We built the iDrive tool in about 8 weeks, which was a
Wow.
ridiculously short time scale. But we were like, okay, let's just get on with this and see what happens and iterate it along the way.
Yeah, amazing. How did you build? Because usually when you convert from or transition from a sort of a consultancy model to into the tech world, and especially as a sort of non-technical, as a non-programming founder, or without that technical background, how did you transition? Because that's such a short period of time, 8 weeks to develop a product. How did you find that transition, and what are the key lessons and differences? What are your thoughts there?
I think time is probably the key lesson, and you can't cheat time. Someone I was with yesterday said to me, "You can't cheat time," and they're trying to build their business. I was like, "That's such an interesting way to look at it." I think the big learn for me really is that time is your enemy, really. And actually, if you put too tight timelines on stuff, you can trip yourself up. Obviously, you can't have open-ended programs or technological developments because you'll never get anywhere. But being realistic with timescales was probably the biggest thing we learned, and being flexible with that, and not being too regimented or too dogmatic about what happens when, and always building in some wriggle room when you're developing the tech. Or when you're developing any business, not just the technological part, whether it's customer development or tech development. The minute you start relying on other people to do stuff for you, you've got to have some flexibility built into your kind of into your timelines and into the dependencies that fall on one thing starting after another thing's finished. So I think that's why house builders take such a long time, because they get that wrong, and the plaster's not ready at the right time. And it's the same in business and technology. You have to get to the start point of the next thing before you can start, if it's dependent like that. I think the other big thing, partners are, if you're a non-tech founder, if you're not, I mean, I'm not a programmer, I'm not even that technologically minded, if I'm really honest about it. I think, I'm kind of in that generation of, there wasn't even email till I went to university, and I like ChatGPT, and I'm into kind of user experience tech, but I'm not into really understanding how the deep tech part works. We had a vision of what was possible, and I think we've had 3 tech partners along the way, and I think we chose excellent tech partners to help us with each phase of the build. We were quite fortunate with that, and actually finding people that understood finding technical people that understood the commercial aspect of what we wanted to build was really, we either got lucky or we made some good judgment calls. There's probably a bit of both, and I think we moved on from each one at the right time, as well. You've got to work out what serves you. A partnership serves you till it doesn't. And I think you should have. We were always open with that. We always went, okay, this is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 10. This partnership is going to start on phase 1 and 2, and we'll see where we get to. And then we worked out who could take us through each stage. So not being over committed with that. We decided not to go with an internal CTO or internal tech person. We just ran with it and used third parties, and actually it probably cost a little bit more in fees, but actually was a good way to keep that flexibility.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. It's always interesting to hear how like non-technical founders build tech, really, because it's like, how do you navigate that? Ultimately from the outside it looks very complex to develop software, build software, when you're the visionary, but you're not actually implementing it. Always interesting to hear that. What's been some significant aha moments in your entrepreneurial journey, that's influenced how you lead, how you lead now, and one of the big moments that you've had?
Yeah, a couple, and this may resonate with some people, because I use it. I use this example all the time when I do seminars or webinars or coaching. But at some point, quite late on in my journey, I realised that not everybody sees the world the way that I see it, and actually that there are different ways to communicate. There are different modes and methods of communication, different styles, and actually people's views on how things are done and should be done is different. And actually then, obviously I realised that before building a motivational tool, because there's different things that motivate us, but really learning to be inquisitive about other people and how they see the world and how they perform. I think I grew up in a business world. My kind of growing up was done in a sales environment where everybody was red yellow on the behavior color chart for the insights chart, and it was very much we drive results, we do it the same way, everybody does it the same way, and there was just a tribe of people just doing the same thing the same way. And in the early 2000s, in kind of financial services recruitment, that worked really well. We made lots of placements, lots of money, we had a lot of success, and then you kind of think from a more business-minded point of view, that people see the world in a different way, and there's a lot of nuance as to how things get done and how to influence people. That's really kind of runs through my leadership style, whether that's leading people in a team, leading partners, leading clients, leading people in the community. I think that, being very inquisitive and understanding that everybody's got different way of communicating, different motivators, and different value sets. And actually, once you start to understand that, then you've got a chance to get the best out of people, or to get the best out of the relationships you have with people. Moving from probably quite a dogmatic style at the start, or certainly directive style, to more of a collaborative style. I think the ability to be able to step in and make decisions from my early days is a good character trait that I've kept, but I've been able to just to understand that there's different ways to get the best out of people. It's probably the biggest aha moment. It's not necessarily an entrepreneurial thing. That works in any business, in life itself, right? You kind of relationships that we have at home. A lot of the work that we do in the corporate world, we find transcends into home life, or into personal, into people's non-professional worlds as well.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting. Did you say, you said like that's the biggest one? Did you say there was another one, or?
I think you're constantly. I think if you're growing, you're constantly having aha moments. And I think that's, I think if people are not having that, then they should look harder for that, to try and find those moments. I think there's just every day's for learning, right? I think that's once you stop learning, you stop growing. And I think if you feel like you've got to the point where you can't grow anymore, whether that's whatever growth is for you, then I think that's, you kind of need to find something which stretches you. So I think the further down my career I've gone, the more it's been about, okay, this is the comfort zone, then there's the stretch zone, and I think learning how to divide your time between your comfort zone and your stretch zone. So certain periods, certain phases, you want to be in your stretch zone as much as you can, and even be to the edge of your stretch zone where you're really pushing yourself. It's uncomfortable out there, and you need to be able to come back into your comfort zone. And I think working out how much time you spend in and out of those two zones mentally, as a leader, certainly as an entrepreneur, it's a lonely place often, and actually managing your energy is really important. So the other probably the other big aha moment I had, and this is probably resonates with any parents out there, is that it took me till I was about 30 to realize that I don't operate very well when I'm tired. My expectations of my own performance are sky high. When I'm very tired, I'm not going to be able to reach those levels of performance. And actually then not to be frustrated, and to be kind to myself at those times, and then use that to regenerate. Because when we're entrepreneurs, or when we believe in what we're doing in business, whether that's for ourselves or for a role for somebody else, the desire to keep going and going and going and going is strong if we're very driven. And you've got to realize that where the points are to just step back and take a break, and just look at what you're doing, regenerate, and come back at it. And it's not every day is in the top 5 percentile performance day, right? You can't always be 100% motivated, 100% focused, and achieve your top level performance. Some days it's about finding the optimal performance level, and managing that. And I think that's helped me find fulfillment in days that have not been smashed out of the park successful, where old metrics would have been how many sales did I make, how much money did I make, how much influence did I have, what whose world did I change. Now it's like, okay, did I enjoy what I did? Was it fulfilling? And that might be, I did 3 hours of highly fulfilling work. No massive tangible outputs, but I know that I'm doing the right things, and I can be satisfied with enjoying that. And then so finding that fulfillment I think is really important, and that comes from managing tiredness, which builds then to managing whatever state you're in. Right, if you're in a highly energetic state, go hard. If you're in the middle, you've got to react accordingly. But don't let the fear of getting out of that comfort zone stop you from getting there. So if you're good at stepping into your comfort zone, out of your comfort zone, it's very important to be able to recognize when to step back in. If you're not so good at stepping out of your comfort zone into that stretch zone, then you've got to work out how to get into that stretch zone more often to push yourself. Otherwise, you end up playing a little bit safe.
For sure. And you kind of mentioned tiredness, like energy levels. Can you build that muscle of like, you getting more into that stretch zone? Like, is it a thing that the more you do it, the more you build the muscle, but then you've also got to have the awareness that you don't want to burn out and like be in that state all the time? Is it nuanced? Like, how do you navigate that?
Great question. I think for sure you can build that. I think that's different for different people. So when I work with people on a coaching journey, for example, that how you do that's not the same, and for everyone. So I think that you need to find your own cadence for that and your own way. I think consciousness is the start point. So to know, just to be able to sit and go, okay, how do I feel today? What zone am I in? What zone do I want to be in? And then, if the two, it's more nuanced than this, but there's the two ways. Is that you either love being in your stretch zone, and that's about managing and maintaining when you step into that, when you step out, or you don't love it, and you've got to then try and work out when do I step into that. I think you can, whichever way around you are, you need to practice consciously stepping in and stepping out, and be aware of what activities are motivational, which are not. So so there's a skill thing, right? So if you can do something, you've got skill. If you've got skill, it doesn't mean that executing that skill is going to be motivational or fulfilling for you. So somebody once said to me, just because you can doesn't mean you should, which I think is I say that all the time to people, especially entrepreneurs who are trying to manage their energy journey. There's a lot of things that we can do that we've had to learn to do as entrepreneurs that we need to let go of and let someone else do, because we haven't got the capacity to do that all. So practicing consciousness and just being aware of how we feel and what zone we're in and what we actually want to achieve, and then you then start to practice which general activities are high energy, which do we love doing and which don't we do. So sales is a polar thing for a lot of entrepreneurs. Many entrepreneurs I work with absolutely love sales, and they'll love getting on the phone and doing some BD and going to a trade show and meeting people and networking. Other people hate that part. So knowing it's either I love it or it's an energy input. So if you have to put a lot of energy into it, it's going to be tiring. So you've got to pick your times when you go and do those things. For me, the tiring thing is like deep administration or micro stuff like contracts and putting together term sheets and all that kind of stuff and reviewing that stuff. I have to choose really carefully what my energy state is when I set off on that task. So it's not necessarily into the stretch zone because I can do it, but it's okay. I know that it's going to draw my energy out because I don't love doing it. I'm not engaged. I'm not excited by doing that, but it's necessary. It's necessary for me to achieve that. So I have to do it. So being aware of which tasks you love doing and which ones you don't sounds quite obvious, but until you really start to analyze it, you'll get stuck in the treadmill of doing stuff and not pay attention to that. So I'm quite conscious now about what do I do when, and what do I do when I've got energy, and I look at my week, or I'm quite fortunate I can just set my week up how I want, and I can step in and out, and I'll work out, okay, that contract review needs to be done by next Wednesday. I know it's floating around my calendar because I'll do that when I have got the right energy pattern to do it. I'm disciplined enough to be able to get stuff done. Lots of people will have to put that in to make in a calendar slot. My advice on that is if you do that and you're not quite into it when you do it, don't then just push it down the road, or at least get yourself into a good energy state before you start. So yeah, it is definitely nuanced. It's definitely something you can learn and develop on. It's not super easy, but the more you understand yourself, the more conscious you are about all of the activities that you do, the more fulfilling the journey will be, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, really interesting. I resonate a lot with quite a few things that you kind of said there, and I try to be very mindful about my energy and what feeds that and what drains it. And I'm right there with you with the admin stuff that you just you need to get done. It's like I call them like the manager tasks that you've just got to get done sort of in the day, but they don't require that deep creative work. It's just stuff that you've got to just tick off, and that drains me because I don't find it enjoyable. But you just got to kind of get it done. So I'll try and fit those in between meetings because it doesn't require like deep work. But it's interesting you say get yourself into the right state. And is that, are you talking about actually you can control what state you're in, state management?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're entirely responsible for how we react to our circumstances, right? We I think we've lost sight of that. We get very, like, society today is very easily offended, or very offended by certain stuff. I think we could choose whether we're offended or not, right? Like, if you see something that is incendiary on social media, then you can choose whether you're offended or not. I know that I'm tired if I get offended by that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to turn social media off now because I'm getting offended, or not even social media, news, right? So like, I can't be an entrepreneur without knowing what's going on in the world. I don't want to get too deep into the news, so I have to step in and out of the news when I'm in a good state. When I start looking at headlines on the BBC or Sky News, and it starts to make me feel angry, then I know it's not a good time to look at that. So 100% you can manage your state. That's just about being consciousness and a bit about being conscious and paying attention to how you feel in any moment, right? And it's like, the more time we spend aware of how we feel, the more we can understand what's going on. Especially when you've got tasks ahead. Just a few deep breaths. Like, you don't need to sit and meditate for hours. It's not, I like breath work, but I'm not a 5 hours a day meditator. I'll just consciously use my breath. And we do public speaking work, and we teach public speaking, and there's we certain people, we have to get them up for public speaking, and you can do an exercise about taking 5 or 6 quick deep breaths, and that gets you energized. But if you're hyperactive, or you're massively nervous when you go into a public speaking domain or onto a stage, then taking a few big deep breaths and practicing a hackle out, which is a very easy kind of calming state change, you can just alter your state completely. And I think understanding when you need to do that. We work with leaders all the way through, from kind of assistant managers right the way through to CEOs, and we're helping them to manage their state in any given situation. But it all starts with consciousness. Just spending a couple of full breath cycles, one breath in, one breath out, one breath in, one breath out, and then you've grounded yourself, and you can pay attention to what's going on around you. If you've got jumbled mind or monkey mind, that's a great way to just calm all the thoughts and line things up and go, okay, what's facing me right now? Because overwhelm was probably one of the biggest things that I had to learn to overcome as an entrepreneur. You can just do anything. There's so much to do all the time. It's like, okay, what's really important? And then just calming down that mind and working out what's important, what's urgent, what's not, and managing your state through that's really, really important. Gives you really great outcomes. especially if you're dealing with other people, the energy which you enter a task with is really important. I hate managing people now. I've managed people for 20 years, and I kind of one-to-one management and helping people do management stuff is just not easy for me anymore, because I find it a little bit tiresome. I know that it's helping them, and I know that they need it, and to be a good manager, even though you don't love it, is actually it's a skill, and that is definitely about finding the right state. So 100% you can always manage your state in any situation, and the ability to find calm or find energy, whichever way you want to go, is a real skill. It's a learned skill, and I think it's a vital skill for an entrepreneur, just to be able to find that. It's often calm, right? For us, it's often there's a lot going on. We need to think clearly. Something's gone wrong, and you need to think clearly, or you need to amp your energy up to kind of go and attack a situation which is tiring for you, and I think that's so important.
You mentioned consciousness a few times. When you say consciousness, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like it is like the definition like self-awareness? Is that what you're talking about? Like being aware of your own thoughts and inner world?
Yeah, it's not too deep. I'm not, I think that there's definitely I've done some spiritual work and read some stuff, but the consciousness for me is not about, it's not about finding enlightenment or any of that other spiritual stuff. It's just about single moment awareness, and it's about just being aware of what's going on around you. I think we quite often spend times in the day and in the week where things just evolve, things just happen, and I think the more that you can make those things happen consciously, the better your outcomes are. Like, I'm sure we've all kind of drifted off on the journey to work, or we've gone somewhere on a journey and we're like, oh, how did I get here? I don't remember what happened, and that's because we weren't conscious through that process. Now, sometimes you want to be unconscious because you want to let your body relax and re-energize and find regeneration. But consciousness in a business setting for me is just about having that awareness, that ability just to step back from everything that's going on in front of you, just to one step back from that and just observe the bigger picture, and be able to just go, okay, that's happening. Do I want to be in it, or do I want to do something to change it? Right? It's like if you're getting pulled along in a crowd after a football match, it's like, well, you either just get dragged along with the crowd, or you make a conscious decision to step out, right? And it's like that. Life's a little bit like that. You kind of you either get dragged along with life, or you make some conscious decisions. I think you can positively affect your future by making conscious decisions. So, where do I want to be? And like, I don't love Grant Cardone. He's a sales guy in America, made loads of money in real estate. I don't necessarily love all his message, but he has a great part of one of his books which talks about we're 100% responsible for everything that happens to us, and as soon as we can take responsibility for that, then the more easily we'll be able to move on and perform. And he talks about somebody getting on the way to a client meeting, they get rear-ended by another car, and he's like, well, this car's not moving, we got smacked up the backside with another car, and it's like, it's clearly, in the eyes of the law, it's clearly not your fault. You could have there are other decisions that you could have made which would have avoided you being in that situation. It's a bit of a trite example, but it's true, right? Where you could have got the client to come to you, you could have gone early, so you didn't do that. You could have taken public transport, you could have gone a different way. Life's all about decision making. The more conscious decisions we make, the better. Do you do that meeting in person, or do you do it on a Zoom call? Do you call someone, or do you email them? Do you WhatsApp them? What's the right way to do things? And we just do so many things on autopilot. Our unconscious mind takes over. Now, sometimes our unconscious mind is our friend, right? Because that's what tells us whether we're in fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? So we need to be able to have an unconscious mind, but the more times that we can spend making good decisions that they might not, the result might not be good, but the decision was good, right? So if you choose, okay, I chose to work from home today. Why did I do that? Because of a set of decision making process. I didn't just end up in my office at home. I made that conscious choice because I'm going to get more done, or I need to be there to take one of the kids to their drama lesson later. And so building that decision making in, and it's a big it's taking control of the small things. I think that's super important. And I think that's all consciousness is in the context that I talk about. It's not super Zen or any kind of religious methodology or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like Grant Cardone's example, and it might not necessarily be there. There are all the decisions that you've made to be at that point, and if then someone's like rear-ended you in it's not, you're not in control of that happening, but you're in complete control to your response to that happening. So I think that's kind of another key point is like you're in complete control of how you respond to everything happening. So there's outcomes, there's things that do happen, and it's your reaction, your response to them that makes a huge difference when it comes to the energy that you drain, the time that you waste. That what you could look at it something empowering or disempowering. So that's like a key thing as well, I think.
Absolutely. Our ability to respond appropriately to situations is a key barometer for success, right? I think we every when we lose a sale, or when we have a disappointment, or when someone leaves our business, then you've got to look internally. You can blame the world, you can blame your environment, you can blame privilege, you can blame where you grew up, you can blame ethnicity, sexuality, whatever you want to blame. There's always something you can find to blame. But the ultimate thing is you didn't get the outcome you wanted. So what do you need to do differently moving forward, or what can you learn from that situation to make sure you get a better outcome? This world as it is now in 2025, there's never been a better time to be successful. There's nothing stopping anybody that wants to be successful can be successful. We're all starting from a different place. I acknowledge that. And there are some privileges of being a white middle class male living in the UK with a good family surroundings, right? I think that puts me further up the probability, or gives me some privileges that gets me some stuff that other people don't get. But then there are people that were born into money, who've got millions already in the bank, and they're way up the scale. And it's like, well, I could look at them and say it's their fault that I'm not as successful as I want to be, or I can say, it's their fault that the world's going wrong, or their fault that everything's happening. And that's not true. You've got to take responsibility for everything that happens to you, and then work out what's the next decision. So I don't think it's necessarily, I don't believe in necessarily good or bad decisions. There's just decisions. The outcomes are good or bad, and then whatever the outcome is, then just make another decision. You've got to be careful with the decisions you make and conscious about those things, but take a chance, move forward. Everything, you can respond the minute we start to look inside as for the reasons why things happened, and then we can do something about it. I can't change where I came from. I can't change my start position in life. I've just got to use that to its advantages, and where it's a disadvantage, I've got to fight up the hill on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of mentioned meditation and stuff, because I meditate. I mean, I haven't done for a week because my routine's just been like totally disrupted and different this past week. But and I noticed the difference. I noticed the difference between that, like the stimulus and response, and like you say, when you step outside of that, when you meditate quite regularly and routinely, it helps that massively, because it just gives you more space to step outside of something that happens and respond in a way that might just be more beneficial or empowering. So that's I noticed that definitely helps me.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think I have a time for practicing meditation, but I think there's a very memorable part of one of Eckhart Tolle's books where he says meditation is just 2 full breath cycles, so we can ground ourselves in 15 seconds. 2 full conscious breath cycles can recenter it. And I think when we're busy, when our routines are disrupted, being able to do that on a regular basis, that's probably as beneficial as having a 15 minutes a day meditation practice at a couple of times a day. It's like whatever works for you. I think a lot of people say, I can't meditate, I'm no good at meditating, I haven't got time to meditate. And Eckhart's 2 full breath cycles is a great thing, because everybody can do 2 full breath cycles where they're only concentrating on their breath. No one can. You can do that anywhere. You can do it in any situation. The entire world can be collapsing around you, and you can do that. And I think that's helped me to be able to make good conscious decisions, or conscious decisions that turn out to be good in very, very tight situations. And that can be a lot of those things in my personal life, because you talked about stimulus and response. Our ability to put some distance between, or some time, space between the stimulus and how we respond to that, that's consciousness. So that space between the thing that you're choosing how to react to happens, and you choosing your reaction to that, that is consciousness, right? So we have silly examples like the kids messing around at the dinner table. I can choose to snap at that, where the reaction and the stimulus response time is almost zero, and everybody gets upset by that. Or I can take a conscious moment, millisecond, half a second, to just respond calmly and get the same outcome, right? And everybody still continues to enjoy their dinner, right? It's a silly example. I mean, we'll get that, we'll get it in work where somebody will send us an email. I used to be terrible at just snapping back at people on an email when email was the primary mode of conversation. It's even worse now with WhatsApp, because it feels much more conversational. Somebody sends me a bit of an RC WhatsApp, and I'll be like, oh, my email address, I want to go at that. And then you put the bit of space in that and think, okay, how may they have meant to communicate that? What do they want by that communication? How do I respond to that to get the best out of that? That is consciousness, being able to just put that space between the stimulus, the WhatsApp message, and the response, how you go back at that. That's really vital. I think that's a key component for success, because I think otherwise we spend a lot of time fighting just fighting stuff, like fighting aggravation, fighting our internal feelings, and it brings out that kind of cortisol response, which is fear-based, and we just spend a lot of time in a zone which is not very creative, whereas actually just allowing things to be, and a lot of the work that we do with understanding communication helps with that, because once you understand that people have got different methods and mediums and models of communication, the way they communicate, their preference of communication is different to mine, or they're under pressure, so their communication is maybe not that well thought through, and it's like, okay, you find that balance, and it's easy to see that stuff when you're face to face with somebody, because you've got all of your senses are in play there. When it's desensitized, so you're just reading an email or reading a WhatsApp, you've got to be much more careful. But even face to face, you can still, you've still got to be conscious and aware that other people have, what does this person mean by that communication? How do I best respond to that? And I think, look back at my early life and early career, I must have burned loads of opportunities, because I reacted too quickly to many things, and that's something which hopefully we can teach people that are working with us at the moment, and help to develop that in our clients, where people can get better results from their relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me a little bit about the sort of the value proposition and positioning and what's unique about Impetus Global and iDrive.
Yeah, so we built iDrive's our proprietary technology. So we built that because there wasn't really anything in the marketplace that analysed and measured motivation. From a performance perspective, motivation is so important because that's the thing which changes with circumstance. If we're motivated, we perform better. That is scientifically proven in lots of fields. And there's so many studies around direct correlations between performance outputs and motivation levels. I think you think about, how can a unskilled or less skilled second division football team beat a Premier League team on a FA Cup third round day, right? It's like there's lots of shocks in sport where we go, that doesn't seem to make sense. Well, the reality is that luck aside, putting putting good fortune to one side, then it means that collective was more motivated than the other collective at that moment in time for that period, and that's really why we fell in love with motivation as a performance tool. So we built iDrive. So it's a simple like explanation. It analyzes what motivates us. We break that down into 10 segments within the workspace, and then we measure how motivated somebody is at that moment in time. So we use it to help understand what our motivators are and how motivated we are. We then can look at that on an individual level, a team level, a divisional level, an organizational level, a global level. And there's all sorts of analysis that we can do to help people. We use that then either just as the data, and then the system will give us some actions to take, some questions to ask, some self-reflection, some manager tasks to take out of that, or we can coach and train with it. So the kind of high-end performance stuff that we do, we'll use iDrive as a basis for having great conversations with people about what's motivating. So we do a lot of work with elite athletes and all sorts of stuff like that, where we need to understand what's driving them, because often when you're coaching people, they're not always aware, or they're not always necessarily willing to share. So it's really important to understand that motivation at that time. So that's the iDrive. That's the iDrive tool. Our leadership development work really then puts motivation at one corner of what we call the performance nexus. So it's a bit of a marketing kind of phrase or slogan, but we kind of look at performance as, from a human behavior point of view, take us all aside the physical stuff, but from a behavioral performance, motivation, communication, and behavior. So we look at those three aspects. Our behavior is what comes in our DNA. So it's there's a bit of nature nurture stuff around that, but it's like our behavior patterns, our behavior types. There's loads of behavior measures out there. Are generally set early on in our life and don't change much. Our communication styles are typically a product of our environment when we're young, so also hardwired in when we're young. Although that can be changed. Motivation is the fluid factor in that. So what motivates us, we can actually, with coaching, you can change what motivates people. So you can play around with people's motivators, frame and reframe stuff, help people to find that shift. If an activity doesn't really resonate with the behavior or the communication, then you're never going to be that successful. But we can shift motivation around to drive performance. So when you put those three things together, you've got a really great platform to understand what elite performance is and how we take people from good to great and then from great to elite. The technology on its own, the iDrive technology was built not with the elite with the elite people in mind. It was built with the entry-level worker in mind, because we also saw that society doesn't really spend any money on people until they get to a certain level. So actually, that privilege of, are you on a management fast track? Did you get a degree? All of those things that kind of move you towards getting some skill development, personal development training in your workplace, that often only starts at, beyond how to be trained to do the job, how to develop ourselves only usually starts when people get on a management fast track. And actually, there's 80%, 70 or 60%, whatever, of the world's workforce doesn't ever get on that track. So there's a lot of people who don't have any access in the workplace to tools which can help them be better. So iDrive really was built with a view that it's a self-reflection inventory. So it's ever changing, and the results are not about labeling. So we try to de-label people rather than label them. And actually, the actionability of iDrive is probably the unique thing, the unique proposition in most behavioural or most psychological, psychometric behaviour analysis tools. A lot of them just say, okay, this is what you are. iDrive is very much a tool which says, this is what's motivating you today, this is how motivated you are, and this is what you need to ask yourself to be more motivated or to try and drive your performance. Just the two things that are directly correlated. So we're super excited with what that can do on a massive scale. Rachel and I personally, we love the kind of senior leadership development, because we're really into the deep kind of behavioural stuff, coaching and helping people tangibly do that. But at scale, we can, we built iDrive with a view that every worker at McDonald's could take the test and get something out of it, and it not be too time consuming or too technological or too complex, and also not be too expensive for the organization to do that, because a lot of tools are priced by license. So if you think McDonald's has got 500,000 employees globally, that's probably direct employees plus probably another couple 100,000 through franchising or whatever. If they had to pay for every license for every person on that, it would cost a fortune. And actually, so we've not only designed iDrive in that way, but we designed the commercial way that we use it in a way which is accessible for clients to access it at scale. We're still on that journey of building the scalability for people, because the technological part of that is the next step for us. But we've got clients who've got 4 or 5 or 10,000 people, and they can all access iDrive all at once, and we can they can have some self-reflection, some management element, and we can easily provide them with some data-led insights as to what may or may not be going on in their organization, because of the understanding how well motivated or what's motivating people. So it just, on a data level, it just gives you some steps forward to go, okay, this may be the case. Tell me more about this. We're going to get to the crux of the opportunity or to the crux of the problem more quickly. So it's about finding actions that we can take today or tomorrow to make a difference to performance, rather than skill-based or behavior-based, where we go, okay, what skills are we deficient in? Okay, this, and this. How do we train that? How long is that going to take to upskill your workforce? So, yeah, sure, you need to keep upskilling people, but oftentimes in business we can't wait for skill development to take place. We have to get results now. Everybody wants results now, and I think iDrive it's not going to deliver the results, but it'll help you to understand where to look more quick, so that you can get to the results more quickly. And for an individual, you can get results within 5 minutes just by taking the test. It's dead simple. The results come back to your phone straight away, and you can start to then ask some questions and start to understand how you can unlock some performance, or why your performance has not been good, or why you don't feel very good about that job or this part of that job or whatever that might be. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Sounds really cool, really interesting. What are you most excited about right now when it comes to, growth and the direction that you're going and everything you've got going on? What excites you most?
That's a great question. Actually, I should probably spend a bit of time consciously thinking about that. I think there's two elements to it. I think we set off with Impetus just about 3 years ago now, to try and help millions of people. That still excites me.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're doing with the performance nexus, putting behavior and communication together with that, with motivation, I think what we're building from a leadership development personally excites me most. I
Mm-hmm.
think that from a satisfaction point of view, or from a fulfillment point of view, seeing us work with elite athletes and CEOs and elite teams, I think that really that excites me, to help people really understand their journey, reevaluate how they approach performance, and achieve higher performance. I think that's the thing that we're kind of unlocking at the moment, which is really excites me personally. From a business point of view, scaling the tech and having millions of people use the platform, that's probably, from a legacy point of view, from an impetus point of view, that's probably what's most exciting. But those two things can coexist, right? Like, we've
Yeah,
got other
for
people
sure.
to drive that stuff. I don't have to be like, I can understand that going and having tech discussions about scaling platforms and APIs and user experience is not necessarily what I need to do. I want to focus on that stuff. I have the right people to help me to focus on the things that I'm either not that good at or not that excited by, and then just to stay high level at that and just give people the control to take that forward. So there's a lot going on. It's extremely challenging. There are a lot of challenges. There's economic challenges, there's marketplace challenges, there's client challenges, there's regulatory challenges. There's always stuff going on. So it's like, we're building quickly. We're excited about growth, but we're also conscious that it's we're not in some vacuum building something. Like, there are lots of things going on outside that can affect that. It's not an easy ride, and it's very bumpy. And being okay with the bumps and just riding that through is really important. I think there is a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to be positive about. I think right now probably the biggest opportunity / challenge is not finding clients that need to improve performance, because kind of everybody needs that, but finding the ones that are really committed to that and have the budget to commit to that. That's probably the challenging piece for our immediate growth over the next 12 months. That doesn't take it away from any of the excitement, because that stuff's always there. There's always something which gets in the way. So you've got to be able to balance the big picture excitement. I'm definitely a big picture thinker. We've got people who are a bit more bottom up thinkers in the team, who can help to balance those things. And I think setting expectations is right now, it's tough. Like, the market's tough. There'll be people out there who are finding whatever business sector they're in challenging, and there are massive challenges. But I also think that the challenging times are the ones where it does bring opportunity. You just have to look a bit harder to find the best ones. So it's definitely a hunter's marketplace, I think, rather than a farmer's marketplace, I think, right now. And you have to be able to identify great clients and go deep with those great clients, rather than kind of marketing everything in and expecting it all to flood in and flow your way, because there's a lot of competition for dollars. There's a lot of pressure on stuff. We've got something which we think is if not unique, it's fairly rarefied in terms of what we do. There are other performance businesses out there, there are other great performance businesses out there as well. Just because we've got something great doesn't mean that's where companies will choose to spend their money. So we've got to talk to the right people, explain the value proposition to them, and then really understand commitment and work with the ones that have got that commitment to take action.
Yeah.
Performance is not a quick fix either. So people that think they're going to shift it all overnight by doing that, yes, iDrive will help you identify where you can make inroads most quickly. It's not going to solve your performance on its own. So managing clients' expectations, finding clients that have got the right expectations, probably is our next 6 to 12 months. That's our headwind, if you want to look at it that way. And then how we build the technology through that period is going to be really important. AI presents a massive opportunity, but also a massive challenge to us. How we incorporate that, how do we move quickly? The development that we were doing 2 years ago, if we'd done it now, it would have probably cost us a tenth of the price, and we'd have been building it on top of a different platform instead of what we've created. That's cool. We just need to be on top of that. And I think if people are not AI focused, then they definitely need to be AI focused, even if that's just mastering ChatGPT to make your life more easy, right? And this, if people are not diving into ChatGPT, then they should be. It's got huge capabilities, but then AI, that's just the surface of AI. That's the from a analogously to crypto, it's like ChatGPT is a bit like your blockchain and all the things that you can do on top of that. We can have self-training chatbots that sit on top of ChatGPT that can answer questions about our services and our products. And I think we'll develop something which is an interactive coach for people who are taking our drive, rather than it being a one-dimensional, here's some questions, here's some evolutionary questions to ask yourself, here's some internal discussion. There'll be some kind of interaction with that where people can get a great learning experience, at the touch of a button. Everybody can get some level of coaching, and how we put that into practice over the next 12 months is going to be really exciting. That's probably the evolution. So on a kind of macro level outside of Impetus, what I'm most excited about, I'm probably most excited to see how AI develops. A few years ago, I was really excited about crypto and about DeFi and how on-chain transactions would change the world. I think that's still going on, and I think there's still a lot of efficiency in there, and there's not just coins and money. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that is decentralizing finance is a good thing. I think that's a really exciting business area. I think AI has overtaken that in terms of its importance to society. It's certainly in the influence. I think we've blasted through the fear that the robot world's going to come and shoot us all in our sleep, to actually how can we leverage the power of technology which can teach itself, right? It's like I think we've got to be conscious of which parts of our business that can take out, which bits of our business could be taken out either by somebody copying what we've done with AI, or by just replacing the need for the human mind. And it's the AI is so powerful now. You can really, there's a lot of roles and a lot of parts of roles that can be massively optimized by using AI technology. And I think in 5 years' time, we'll see lots of things become obsolete, lots of roles become obsolete because AI is taking over. And I think if people are not, especially business owners, if they're not thinking about where can they add value to their clients, if they're only adding value in an area where AI could take them out in 2 to 3 or 4 years, and they need to be thinking about, okay, where can I add more value? So yeah, like coaching, could coaching be done? Could an AI bot do coaching? Certainly do. We do a 45-minute kind of debrief on an iDrive chart for an individual if they want to pay for that. In a year's time, we'll be able to offer that service free through a chatbot. Somebody will be able to get 80 or 90% of the quality of a coaching session, because that first bit's quite easy. Lots of managers might be obsolete, because I think the standard management questions that you ask, the standard questions you ask your manager, a chatbot is going to be able to deal with that, especially in big businesses, right, where the same questions are asked over and over again, and there's more data points for the AI to learn from. Like, imagine, like, Ernst & Young, for example, they've got thousands and thousands of accountants asking accountancy questions of their managers. What do we do in this situation? How does EY do this? What do we do when a client does this? The same question has been asked in Sao Paulo as it's been asked in Tokyo, as it's been asked in London. You get the AI on that, and you don't need a lot of managers.
Yeah,
you can just have managers. It's like FAQs 0.2, right? It's like you used to go on a website and you go, okay, this book this ticket, do that, go to that holiday, and then it's FAQs. Okay, you look in the FAQs to find your information. Then it was Google. You ask Google what to do. Now people will be able to ask a chatbot, and they'll be like, because ChatGPT is that. It just doesn't look like a face, but if they've not got it already, there'll be an EY avatar chatbot that can speak to you in Spanish and Japanese and in English, and it'll tell you the answers to your questions. Without having to waste loads of time. So I think understanding the evolution, how quick it's going to happen, how powerful it is, every business owner should be paying attention to that. The best way to learn that is to use ChatGPT and understand its capability and its power, and then to look at the things that people are building on top of ChatGPT. So understanding what's relevant for you and your business, and getting on top of how can you leverage that, and what's the threat level there. Because a lot of people go, I don't want to look because I don't want to use it. Well, you need to understand the capabilities, but you also need to understand the threat, because there'll be AI will create Codex, or the other businesses that went out of business when digital stuff took off. Right, there
for sure.
The
Blockbuster.
Nokia, Blockbuster, the Nokia. There's some great case studies in economics of why that happened. The smartphone saved Apple, the meal deal saved McDonald's. People have got to be looking at the disruption that AI can have. I think it's going to be huge for a lot of entrepreneurs. It's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And someone once said to me, the only way you can predict the future is really by just understanding that there's going to be challenge and there's going to be opportunity, and it's like you embrace the challenge and capitalize on the opportunity. And that it really is the case. We're in very exciting times. We're in very challenging times. There's lots of opportunities. There's huge challenges, and it's just that's just the entrepreneurial journey, right?
Absolutely, and I think the greatest thing about ChatGPT is that you can use it to help you learn it, which is quite. So you could go on ChatGPT and say, "How do I use ChatGPT?" and it'll give you some insights. It's just the multi layers of information it can give you. It just answers your questions, and I think I use it. 6 months ago, I was using it maybe once a day. Now it's probably overtaken Google as my go-to for information.
For sure.
I've used it 3 times or 4 times to find stuff out that would have taken me hours to find, or I would have just not done earlier in the day. And it's 11 o'clock now, so I've been using it this morning over breakfast, and sorted out some tech spec on a on a TV and how it's, can I cast my phone to the TV, and that technological stuff would have been beyond me. Like, it would have hurt me to like put the energy in to try and learn that stuff. Now I just ask and then just get the answers. So I think everybody, the opportunity, the ease of which you can learn about AI is the best thing about AI. So I think everyone should be putting some time into that for sure. But you're right, 100%. Being able to see the future is by being in the present. And if you get stuck and let the present go away from you, you'll get so far behind that you get lost. Like my generation had to get on board with email and the internet and social media, and we had to kind of catch up with that. Kids today, that's just part of their world. My parents' generation, like, they struggled with anything which was on the internet, how to do anything. If you get stuck, if you don't keep up technologically, lots of people got stuck with banking in that older generation, not understanding how to use online banking, not understand how to use a credit card. Where cash was the way forward. If you don't stay up to date with stuff, you fall behind. The pace of growth now is faster than ever before, so it's so vital to stay on top of what's going on in tech change at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, Andy, I really appreciate this conversation. We kind of could go on and talking forever about all this stuff, but I'm just being mindful of time. Where can people find out more about you online?
So I think the best place to find information about me is probably on LinkedIn. All of my business interests are on LinkedIn. There's ways to contact me on there. I'm happy for people to reach out if they want to do so. My email and phone number and social handles and stuff are on there, and I'm on LinkedIn all the time, so it's probably the central place to find more out about me, more about Impetus, some of the other businesses that I'm involved in, and also just if people want to reach out, and feel free to do so.
Awesome, and I'll put links in the description below. So yeah, Andy, really appreciate having you on. Really appreciate this conversation, and I'll be watching your growth and the growth of Impetus with great interest.
It's amazing. Thank you for the opportunity, James.
Thank you.